Here comes a new challenger!
Fights. Everyone loves them, and it's one of the biggest draws to anime and manga. The hype around massive fights or beautifully animated choreography, it certainly hooks a lot of people and was something that drew me to certain series, and today I will be talking about another manga with very enjoyable fights. Star Strike It Rich, written by Yabako Sandrovich and illustrated by Mam, is a fighting manga that is relatively new, only starting serialization in 2023. If the author sounds familiar to you, then you will probably know him from the Kengan series, which has a popular manga that was turned into an anime by Netflix. This was actually my introduction to the Kengan series and how I eventually found Star Strike It Rich. Now, in today's video I will be covering the story of Star Strike It Rich, mainly covering the first chapter and some other points in the story. Then I will talk about the fights, so if you want to avoid spoilers, click off now, but if you don't mind spoilers or have already read this story, then please enjoy the video. This is a battlefield for beasts. Tonight, abnormal warriors unfit for the public stage exchange blows. We see the underground fighting organization called Valkyrie, and a fighter walks towards a large arena. Tojo Ran, the disgraced boxing genius, takes the stage. Tojo Ran was a former super featherweight champ with a record of 8 wins and 2 losses. One of those losses was for breaking the rules. She caused severe damage to one of her opponents. We see someone watching from the crowd. They mention that she's not bad and is certainly no street punk, but tells the person they are talking to on the phone to keep looking for anyone with potential. Seriously. She's the owner of Valkyrie, Tenma Nozomi, and is one of our 2 protagonists we follow throughout the story. Now, let's see if you can satisfy her. And we see who she is talking about. We see the next fighter warming up as the announcer introduces her. She's Valkyrie's very own warrior of revolution, and we see Hongo Hina, the other protagonist of this story. Despite being young, Tojo's trainer tells her to be careful, she's the real deal. Tojo is only thinking about the prize money and believes their luck is turning around. They face off in the middle of the ring and the size difference becomes apparent. The ref tells them that there's no match timer and no rules, which is the same as the Kengan series. Tojo taunts Hina, but she doesn't react or even look at her. She continues talking, saying this is just a stepping stone and that she's going to show the washed up small fry what a real fighter is like. You're going to see that first-hand small fry, Tojo says, and Hina looks up at her, and we get a full look at her star-shaped eyes, and I love how over the top they are, and you will see it fits her character very well. She mumbles slowpoke and returns to her side of the ring. The announcer hypes up the fight, and Tojo becomes agitated by Hina's comment and pulls a classic Baki and Kengan face contort. They both get into their respective stances and the fight begins. Tojo begins swaying her lead arm in front of herself. Nozomi begins to explain how her jabs work as Hina begins to slowly approach her. She lets a flurry of jabs go that stun the audience, but Hina doesn't react at all. We get another panel talking about the jab and how fast it can go. Another flurry of jabs ring out and Tojo asks if she's still a slowpoke. Yep, just as slow as I thought, Hina responds, gleefully angering Tojo. Tojo throws a jab that is millimeters from Hina's face. In the blink of an eye, Hina slips the punch and dashes forward. She lands a clean punch on Tojo, knocking her to the ground, and Nozomi just sighs, saying she did it again. We see the imprint of Hina's fist on Tojo's face as she lays motionless on the floor. The announcer calls the fight for Hina and she hits a victory pose. Hina leaves the arena and is greeted by Nozomi. You're not making this easy for me, Hina. Win if you want, but can you stop doing it like that? Hina doesn't answer the question and is surprised that Nozomi watched her fight, which is odd because Nozomi owns the organization she fights in. Nozomi mentions that people won't bet on her opponents anymore, and that's going to cause problems for her small organization. Hina asks how that's her fault, and that if she wants closer fights, then to just bring her stronger opponents. Nozomi thinks about how she's getting the strongest fighters she can, but none of them can compare to her. Hina says that she's counting on Nozomi to bring her strong fighters, and we see her first of many creepy panels. Nozomi thinks that it might have been a problem inviting her to the organization, but she can't back out now. She's going to figure out some way to use Hina's strength to rise up the underground fighting world. That's the end of the first chapter, and it had me interested in finding out more about Hina and her relationship with Nozomi. and the final panel of this chapter hints that them meeting each other will be the focus of the next chapters. The story follows these two as Nozomi tries to get rich by creating a female underground fighting organization, and Hina joins because she is seeking out strong opponents to face, and we watch as Nozomi tries to use Hina to get the best out of her situation. Now in the next part I will be talking about the fights, so spoilers for those. If you don't want spoilers, click off now, but if you don't mind, let's continue. Now, the fights are where it's at in this manga, and it has some absolutely insane fights, and the best are absolutely Hina's. The first chapter I showed you is a good introduction to her power, but this is genuinely just the tip of the iceberg. She is an absolutely terrifying character that even now we don't know just how strong she is. Instead of spoiling various moments and fights, I will spoil a bit of one fight. And the fight I will be talking about is Hina vs Shinonome Rei. It's the most recent fight in the manga, so this is my last spoiler warning. Both fighters make their way into the arena. They begin conversing before the fight, and Rei asks Hina has she ever killed anyone. Rei then mentions how she has taken 25 lives. We then learn that Rei and Hina grew up in a cult together, and Hina was favoured by the leader and didn't need to go on any missions, unlike Rei who had to go on countless missions killing, and even after the cult ended, she'd continued to go killing. Hina isn't interested and just wants to get to the fight. Rei takes off her robe and tells Hina it will be a big problem if she can't kill her. The fight begins and Rei takes an odd slouch stance. Hina throws a punch and it's easily dodged, but Rei didn't just dodge, she countered. Blood is seen on Hina's arm. Rei tells her she isn't even close and that she's going to have to actually try and kill her. We get another flashback to Rei as a child and learn that she is a specialist in the Rikudu style Army Breaker, which is a limp-wristed attack, and her arms are like iron rods that have been trained to their absolute peak. The fight continues with Hina being pressed by Rei's attacks. Hina pushes forward with an attack of her own and their punches connect with one another in this lovely double spread. They both smile after the exchange. Rei continues to pressure Hina, who for the first time in the series is actually on the back foot, until in the heat of the exchanges she grabs Rei's hand, shocking her, and calmly asks if they can do something else now. She's getting bored. Rei throws another heavier punch at Hina, and once again she grabs her hand with ease. She asks her if they can do something else. She's bored with how she's fighting, and at this point in the story, we haven't seen anyone close to Rei's strength, and even she can't get Hina's attention. Rei swings again, but Hina doesn't even bother grabbing it and just casually knocks her arm away, once again reiterating that she's pretty over this. She pulls Rei in and elbows her before hitting her with a high kick, wobbling Rei. The other fighters are stunned. Rei is confused as to why Hina isn't continuing to attack her. She then quickly tackles her to the floor and holds her there with ease. She asks Rei if she remembers their true mission. Not to spoil too much, but this arc and the fight in particular has shed light on Hina's past. She and 8 other orphans are called the Star Children, and they have to kill one another until the final star remains who will change the world. It's very odd and we don't know a whole lot about it, but I assume the future arcs will have us meet the other 7 Star Children. Rei dashes away from Hina and the fight continues again with Hina walking towards Rei. And I'm not going to spoil the rest of the fight, as it's definitely the best in the series, so you should read it for yourself. This is probably the halfway point in the fight. The series is filled with amazing fights that are honestly a joy to watch. There's no deep themes or stakes in the fights besides the fighters' lives and the money, but the pure spectacle of the fights are great and something I think you would enjoy. Also, as I mentioned before, this is set in the Kengan world, and one of the coaches in Kengan, Ashura, is watching this fight and is friends with Nozomi, which was cool to see. The fights in this are a mix of fantastical martial arts with some real-world martial arts sprinkled in. Some of the less powerful fights are enjoyable to watch, and you will notice more practical techniques being used, like in Nozomi's comeback fight. On a quick side note before the conclusion, Hina has so many scary scenes. She's actually quite an unsettling character who is the best part of this series. If I could wish for something, I would want to see her and Oma sparring, just for fun, as both of the characters are a bit of a crash out, at least early Kengan Ashura for Oma. Anyway, now for the conclusion. Star Strike Rich is a great manga for anyone interested in reading a good fighting manga. If you're a fan of the Kengan series or Baki, you will enjoy this series. The fights are hype and flashy, and the MC is a broken mess of power that is unpredictable. I hope I've convinced some of you to try this manga. Well, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!